Energies 10 through 12. 10, consciously or unconsciously, represents your standing in the world or your status, how others see you, and what they believe you bring to the world. It's almost like your gift to the world or what you bring to the table. It's the identity, which is energy 1, positive or negative, that you have protected. Therefore, the world sees it. We see what you value and have protected at all costs. Now, in astrology, you will study your 10th house to discover what your essential contribution to society basically is and the way in which you can demonstrate your true self. 10 is about manifesting and what you can contribute to society. Everyone is born to live the truth that they are. But often one finds themselves surrounded by social lies and personal fallacies. As a person matures under such conditions, not realizing what he is, the person will not know his real contribution to society. In his doubt and confusion, he tries to decide what to do by conforming to some average standard of normality. Now, the Celestine insight for 10 is life in heaven guiding us on earth. Before we were born, we have a vision of this mission. When we get here, it goes unconscious as we are being educated. Then, as we move through the stages of life, it comes back into awareness. First, as attractions and amazing synchronicities that are trying to wake us up, followed by a full-blown inspiring goal. With this insight, we are making the higher meaning of life more conscious and self-evident while leading more people to catch the vision and thus accelerate both their lives and the progress of the world. For the disciplines of the mind and the disciple, we have Thaddeus, the 10th, and is the disciple of praise and gratitude, a quality in which the undisciplined man is woefully lacking. When this quality of praise and thanksgiving is awakened within man, he walks with the words, "Thank you," ever on his lips. He knows that this thanks for things not seen opens the windows of heaven and permits gifts beyond his capacity to even receive to be poured upon him. The man who is not thankful for things received is not likely to be the recipient of many gifts from the same source. They got to keep finding different sources. Until this quality of the mind is disciplined, man will not see the desert bloom as a rose. Praise and thanksgiving are to the invisible gifts of God or universe, one's desires, that rain and sun are to the unseen seeds of the bosom of the earth, in the bosom of the earth. Did I read that right? I say praise and thanksgiving are to the invisible gifts of the universe or one's desires, what rain and sun are to the unseen seeds in the bosom of the earth. The 11th energy, consciously or unconsciously, represents where you energetically feel you belong and what feels like home for you. Is how you have integrated the accumulation of all the energy so far and have energetically placed yourself in the world. The 11th energy is the law of attraction. That's why this energy is represented by a 1 being mirrored back to itself, creating 1 and 1. What you be is what comes. What energy you be in is what comes to you. In astrology, you will study your 11th house to discover how you make decisions and the way in which you might carry it out. Carry out the decisions, which does test and prove our character. Success and the products of success can indeed become tyrannical. Wealth can and does enslave. Productivity at all cost may cost the individual, the nation, spiritual integrity, and freedom. Victory may lead to a false sense of security. The Celestine insight, the 11th insight, the power of prayer. And the way I would state that is the power of setting intentions. In this level of consciousness, we become more purpose driven and receptive to how those in the afterlife are lifting us up. The more we are in alignment with the principle of giving and our inner intuition to accurately help others, we will sense our heightened creative power and see it working through our intentions. When we use this power for uplifting the spiritual consciousness of others, we draw more powerful people into our lives to uplift us. The key is discovering that affirmative prayer or intention setting, practiced with the emotion of gratitude, like it will happen, establishes the strongest faith validity. For the discipline of the mind and disciple, we have Simon of Canaan. A good key phrase for this disciple is hearing good news. Simon of Canaan, or Simon from the land of milk and honey, when called to discipleship, is proof that the one who calls this faculty into being has become conscious of the abundant life, which is opposite of victim mentality. He can say to the psalmist David, prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, and anoint my head with oil, my cup runneth over. This disciplined aspect of the mind is incapable of hearing anything other than good news, and so is well qualified to preach the gospel or good spell. The 12 energy, consciously or unconsciously, represents the hidden, sacrifice, endings, illuminations, and all-knowing. Now, the hidden is different from the unseen. The unseen is something that you don't see, like your keys fell behind the bed and you can't find them. That's the unseen, whereas the hidden is more like secrets, things intentionally kept secret or kept away, kept hidden. Now, in astrology, you will study your 12th house to discover how you can reach perfect fulfillment, if you can at all reach it. It suggests to you the best way to deal with your ghost or your shadow side, and the disintegrating products of your subconscious, and how to better understand some of the deepest problems you might meet. These problems deal with the subconscious, which with the way to deal with the insistent memories of the past and karma, with the challenge to transfigure every closing cycle into a new and higher cycle. It deals even with one's approach to sleep every night, and with the attitude one holds towards activities of the day, which is closing. It deals with all forms of activity, because every act begins in a first house phase, reaches achievement in a 10th house phase, and must be brought to a significant conclusion if there is to be further progress, greater activity, and true individual growth. One thing, however, is needed. This is the courage to repudiate the ghost of the past. So these are your traumas, these are your childhood wounds, these are the things you don't want to look at. It is the repudiation, which is also called severance. There can be no real freedom in rebirth without conscious severance from the past. Without the ability to either bring the whole past to a significant and harmonious conclusion, or the courage to say finished and dismiss the memory of what one must leave unfinished, unassimilated, unintegrated, unsolved, if one is to enter the new life, the new cycle of experience. So I stress that because sometimes we don't get closure from people. Sometimes we don't get to know why somebody did something to us, why somebody refuses to tell us the truth. They may take the truth to the grave with them, and we have to have the courage to close it out and move forward. We don't need to know. Nevertheless, such cries must be met. If we do not meet ghost, We may be blocked by hidden enemies, another traditional 12th house characteristic. So if we don't face our own self, our own shadow, we can be blocked by hidden enemies. We can be deceived, manipulated, and fooled without dealing with our shadow. So, the 12th insight from the Celestine Prophecies, the sensation of God's presence inside us. When we're not in the flow, we feel disconnected and either anxious or frustrated. So, we distract ourselves with various compulsive activities designed to make our misery go away. It could be anything from over shopping, compulsively watching sports and celebrities, and actual addictive behaviors from sex to drugs. The presence then becomes non-dual, existing both within and outside of us at the same time. When we are acting in karmic alignment, it brings us an even greater intuitive knowledge that animates the truth we tell to others. Feeling God's familiar presence, you will sense the flow of your destiny unfolding at any age and move into sincere awareness of the distractions and addictions your ego has always devised to sidetrack you. For the disciplines of the mind and the disciples, we have the 12th and the last discipline quality of the mind, which is, of course, last but not least, Judas. When this quality is awake, man knows that he must die to that which he is before he can become that which he desires to be. So he has to die to what he was before in order to become what he wants to be. So it is said of this disciple that he committed suicide, which is the mystic's way of telling the initiated that Judas is the discipline aspect of detachment. This one knows that his I am, or consciousness, is his savior, aka his solution. So he lets all other solutions go. This quality, when disciplined, gives one the strength to let go. The man who has called Judas into being has learned how to take his attention away from problems or limitations and to place it upon that which is the solution, aka the Savior. Except you be born again, or unless you can occupy the desired state of consciousness, you cannot in any wise enter into the kingdom of heaven, aka live your dreams. No greater love hath man than this, that he give his life for a friend. When a man realizes that the quality desired, if realized, would save and befriend him, he willingly gives up his life, aka his present conception of his present concept of himself, for his friend, by detaching his consciousness from that which he is conscious of being and assuming the consciousness of that which he desires to be. And that's the last one. And a summary or a synopsis of the 12 disciplines of the mind go on to say, all the storms and confusions that engulf man can be traced directly to these 12 ill-related characteristics of the human mind in its present slumbering state. Until they are awakened and disciplined, they will permit every rumor and sensuous emotion to move them. When these 12 are disciplined and brought under control, the one who accomplishes control will say to them hereafter, I call you not slaves, but friends. He knows that from that moment on, each acquired discipline attribute of the mind will befriend and protect him.